Hello everybody and welcome to the Nurburgring for race number 6 of the Night Racing League Sportscar Championship. After a fortnight here in Germany, everybody competing in the 24 hours a week ago, on Monday we closed the gates to the Nordschleife, and it has been all preparation for 90 minutes here today on the Grand Prix Streck, the BESWC layout, and the cars just getting out on their final warm-ups before we go to qualifying. After some lacking grids, it could be said, with the first onslaught of spring, we've got a good group of cars here today, including some new drivers and a returnee. We will get to that shortly, but first, let's have a look at the points. Dennis Rotter leading in the LMP class, chased by his teammate Thomas Brommel. 55 points separate them. Andreas Schwarz, with his fantastic victory at Road Atlanta, is only a point behind Thomas Brommel. Andre Heinrich not here. We'll have news about that later. Paul Seeley, Dean Ellico. Keith Rainey is here today. Oliver Schlabs as well. In GTE, Jennifer McDonald, a familiar face at the top of the point standings, chased by Hayden Fowler in the Corvette. Jens Wolters making a charge at the championship, just 52 points back. Remember, it's 38 points for a win here using the Sportscar point system. As the cars are just finishing off here, there is Steve Groninga and Kevin Hensel in the Corvettes. And we mentioned some new drivers here today. Just trying to see if we've got any of them on track. There is Nick Johnson in the number 96 Liquid Moly BMW M8. We welcome Nick to the fold here for his first race in the KRL. And we also have Eric Fox in the LMP class making his debut. Eric not out on circuit, as we've got 30 seconds left here in the warm-up, and then we'll head out for qualifying. 90-minute race here today, so it'll be 10 minutes per class. And as we said, we had 10 hours of practice here this weekend, as Keith Rainey has a little bit of a slip there in the Yokohama S. 10 hours of practice, and track limits here vary. They've been catching some people out, especially at a couple of places, just exiting the Mercedes Arena, as well as into Vidal Chicane, the final chicane, as practice session is now over, the warm-up session rather. And so everybody a little worried about the incident limits and maybe some drive-throughs, but as we've seen, these guys usually know what they're doing. As we pan back, there is the 33 of Eric Fox. We welcome him in as he's waiting for the field to head out. And now gets it going. Andreas Schwarz just in behind him. There is Dennis Rotter, your points leader in LMP. And after some bad luck, with some incidents not of his doing, and then some bad luck of his own doing, there's Thomas Brommel in the 4. He needs to have a good result here, as the Unleashed boys have really put their stamp on Season 2 here in the Sportscar Championship for LMP, but they need to... Thomas really needs to finish ahead of Dennis here today if he wants to have a shot at the championship, with 2 rounds to go. And 2 big ones as well, as we head north. Well, we head west, really. We'll have 2 hours at Spa-Francorchamps in 2 weeks' time before finishing the season off at Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans, France. As the cars come around for their to start their first hot laps. And it'll be Dennis Rotter, the first car out. Take the left-hander down. There is Eric Fox, just now coming out of the Mercedes arena. And Paul Seeley in the 72. He's had a tough week here. Just a circuit that doesn't suit him, and has been having a lot of trouble getting any kind of grip. But we know he's going to finish the race and hopefully capitalize on some people having issues with the incident limits. But as far as a second off the pace for the 72, which is unusual, he's in that second pack, but just has not been comfortable this week. He was one of the drivers competing in the 24-hour race last Saturday. As the 33 is around on an outlap. Very aware of the no teleporting rule. He waits for the field to go by, and the 33 is back and running as we have our first times coming across the board now. And you saw Rotter there. It's a 42-0. So that's a very competitive lap right out of the gate. 18 degrees here with a 34-degree track temperature as they were finishing up their warm-ups. It's going to get cooler. Sim time is 2 p.m. for the start of this session, which means the race will get underway somewhere in the 2:35 p.m. range. Brommel 2/10 off Schwarz does a 42.8, and you can see Fox with a 56.5 with that little spin. We'll see what he does next time around. Oliver Schlab's back on the grid after missing the last race. He's on the second row. It is Seeley and Fox currently in row 3. Keith Rainey sets a 2 minute, so he's obviously had an issue as well out there. Thomas Brommel has dropped back a little bit from Dennis, so I'm not sure he's getting much effect of a tow here. Rotter certainly could look at putting his stamp on this championship if he could have himself a good run here today and stay ahead of his teammate. As they're coming through the final corner now. .42.081, he does not improve. It's a 42.089, so 9 thousandths of a second slower on his second lap. 42.5 for Brommel does not improve. As Schlab's coming into the pits very early. Schwarz improves to a 42.7. As we're 5 minutes in, so Schlab's, I guess, looking maybe to split this, do 2 one-lap runs. Eric Fox does improve. He's been hinting he's going to be up near the front end of at least that second group and possibly challenging on the back end of the front group. Sadly missing Andre Heinrich today as issues with the switch at LMP team, and well, we won't go into that, but Andre is welcome back anytime he wishes to race here. Fantastic race-winning driver in this series. Very capable, low incidents, never involved in on-track problems, and we hope to see Andre in Season 3 after he's taking a little bit of a break here. Dennis Rotter on pole so far, as we have 3 minutes left in the LMPs, and then the GTEs will come out for the final 10 minutes. There's that chicane. The Vidal chicane, everybody having issues with that entry. Very easy to pick up a 1X if you are a little too greedy on the entry, and it's a very fast chicane as Brommel improves behind a 42.1. It's a very fast chicane. We're using the WEC layout, which has the fast chicane rather than the slower one that you might be familiar with from the Formula 1 cars when they run here. And you really need to get that entry right, and a lot of people have been picking up incident points in practice, so we'll see how that goes in the race. Andreas Schwarz, third, brings his car in, and that might be it, as having to get back out before the 10-minute mark comes out. I'm not sure he's going to get that done. Brommel having himself a good lap, so we'll see if he can grab back a little bit of that. .42.081, still the time to beat. Schwartz is done. He's going to sit with his 42.7. Brommel looks closer. This is a good lap for the 4 car. We'll see if he can stick this up on pole. They both improve. Rotter still up front. A 41.904 for the 011 and a 42.081 for Thomas Brommel. So great qualifying, and we're going to see a great race between the teammates here today. We said very important race for Thomas Brommel. Seeley makes it into pit road a 44.0, and that pretty much underscores what we were saying earlier about the week he's had. Eric Fox improves. He's going to start inside of row number 3, a 43.251, puts him ahead of Keith Rainey, a 43.3. As we head back to pit road, no GTE cars on at the end yet, although we hear them rumbling. Here they come now. That is the 14 of Max Riebensteiner of the aforementioned Switch It team. Max, one of the front runners here. Jennifer McDonald in behind as the 10-minute mark comes and goes. LMP qualifying is done, and the GTEs head out onto the circuit. And there is the red 25 of Connor Seidel. Back, you remember Connor from season 1. And actually, a double race winner. He won both of the exhibition races while we were setting this series up on iRacing. Which reminds me to get the banners up for the broadcast. So Connor, a very capable driver. Great to have another Canadian on the grid. And seeing the original BMW M8 from the Night Racing League. He was the first to run that car and was the only one until Jennifer showed up in race number 2, I believe, in season 1. There is Hayden Fowler looking for a big day here today. And everybody out rather close in this group. Although we are spread out. Looking around, we're pretty spread out around the circuit. This is not really a place where you have long tow areas, so clear track is probably your best bet. You don't want anybody else's issues to come and get you. As we start our hot laps, first on the circuit is the 14 of Riebensteiner. We look at Mark Sonnen in the 111 there. And the Night Racing Esports cars together running the all blue with the black trim here today. So while we get ready for our first hot laps to come in, we'll go over the LMP grid one more time. On pole, Dennis Rotter with Thomas Brommel, the Unleashed cars, lock out row number 1. Andreas Schwarz is really finding form here as Season 2 progresses. He's inside row number 2 with Oliver Schlabs. Newcomer Eric Fox in the 33 will line up inside of the 6 of Keith Rainey, and 7th and alone in row number 4 is the 72 of Canadian Paul Seeley. The GTEs making their way around. And the first car we'll see to the finish line is Max Riebensteiner. We pick him up just now coming up the back straight to the Hasenbecksbogen. And with such a large German contingent in this series, I'm going to try and keep to a minimum my pronunciations. The Discord's going to blow up, I know. Here comes Max. Out of the final corner, and he will post the first time. McDonald right behind, so we might see some action early. It's a 50.5, and she does take provisional pole, a 50.1. In behind Seidel and Sonnen, there is Nick Johnson. As the cars cross the line, Maneth and Gerrans in the 52s. The KRL cars up to row number 1 for Hayden Fowler. Kevin Hensel will line up behind him at the moment on the outside of row number 2. Here comes Steve Groninga in the 59 car. And Steve puts up a 56.1, maybe some issues out on that lap. Here is Marcel Struth, who will supplant him, and Costa, a good lap, a 51.6 for Chris. A good GTE field here, 15 cars here at the Nurburgring this weekend. So we should see great battles up and down the field in the GTE class. 1 minute 50.103, the current time to beat. That's set by Jennifer McDonald, the Series 1 champion. Toby Senninger is around, and a 150.364 for the 488. And there is Toby in the Ferrari. He missed a couple of races as well, but currently sitting in the top 5 in the points. And we'll see what he could do here. It's not an insurmountable, no, he's within a race victory of his teammate, Jens Wolters. So Nick Johnson comes through with a 151.5, and Wolters, as we say his name, puts his car on provisional pole with a 149.946 seconds. So 0.2 of a second are going to have to be found by the 99 car. As we have a yellow flag on track, and it is Riebensteiner. And that is down at Mercedes. Waits for everybody to go by, no harm, no foul. Costa makes his way into the pits, a 151.6 currently inside of row number 6. We'll see if he gets himself back out. Lineup currently beside John Dinkle in the Ford. The KRL cars, the night racing cars, still together. And because of the gaps we have in this, between the classes here, and the European circuits not having full pace laps, it's going to be a tight-knit thing. The GTEs are going to take the green lights before the final chicane. So there was a lot of talk in the drivers' meetings about a single file start, which is of course legal in the rules. That rule is in place because of Le Mans, of course, where the GT classes start heading into the Ford chicanes. So a very similar situation here at the Nurburgring, and we expect a lot of the cars will drop back single file. As we've had some action down there, Jaden Manathan-Garin, a 50.996, puts himself inside of row number 4. He jumps Seidel, Sonnen, and Johnson. As Riebensteiner makes his way back into the pits. No improvements from the night racing cars. The 78 is on a good lap. All green sectors for Marcel Struff. As Jens Wolters purple. Oh, and a good lap goes out for the 78. Wolters at the same time has improved and really solidified that pole position of 49.644. Steve Groninga, green, green, green. His last lap time was a 57.2, so that's not an improvement. Senninger up to second place on the timing sheets. So the 488, we now have teammates on the front row of both classes. A 150.098 for Toby pushes Jen McDonald down to row number 2 with the 14 of Max Riebensteiner. 2 green sectors for Fowler. Here he is with Hensel in behind. No, they've swapped positions. Hensel's in front. Hensel with the black with blue trim. Fowler the blue with black trim. And it is Hayden Fowler in behind who is having the sector times with a little bit of a sloppy corner there in the dirty air. And it is not an improvement. A 50.967 will keep Hayden on the inside of row number 3. As the time winds down here, a lot of cars starting to make their way into the pits. The GTEs allowed to complete their laps. They go right to the end of the session time before we go to gridding. And everybody looking like they're backing off. Perhaps the 78 of Struff, the only car out there looking like he's putting in times, and Marcel a 54.6 that time around, 6.23, and that is his best time. So the GTE field, it's Jens Wolters on pole, ahead of the 488 of Toby Senninger. Jen McDonald will line up in row number 3 alongside Max Riebensteiner. Hayden Fowler inside of Kevin Hensel, as both night racing cars in row number 3. The third night racing car of Jaden Manathan-Garin, he runs the BMW. There he is, inside of row number 4, alongside of Connor Seidel. And all BMW row number 4. Mark Sonnen in the 111 will line up beside Nick Johnson in the 96 in his debut race in the KRL. Row number 6 is Chris Costa and Steve Groninga, a pair of Corvettes. John Dinkle will line up beside Marcel Struff in row number 7 with Chris Thompson in the Porsche number 66. In row number 8. 90 minutes here at the Nurburgring as we finish off a fantastic fortnight here in Germany. And as we said, we'll finish off the season. We'll just get the schedule up here for you. After this, it's Spa-Francorchamps in 2 weeks' time on the 15th of May, and we'll round off the season at Le Mans. And the league working very hard to add some drivers over the summer. The big news is, of course, Season 3 is well in the works. But over the summer months, where attendance is a little tougher, people have stuff to do, it's going to be special events. And the league is going to be running a special event every month, June, July, and August. And formats yet to be determined, but lots of talk, whether it's 3 classes, whether it's team events, longer events. We could do that with a team event. And, of course, the 3 races will be used for recruitment, as well as the final 2 of this season, before kicking off what will be a spectacular Season 3 in the Night Racing League. Everybody lining up now on the back straight. You saw that just before the chicane, and we'll see what the GTEs do. We know they've been talking about it. There's really no point trying to get a big mess, and the GTEs have been so professional in the way they run their races. As we wait for some of the stragglers at the front end of the LMP field, we don't see either of the Unleashed cars yet. There is Andreas Schwarz. There they are. They pop up together. The front row is in, and there is Oliver Schlabs. And we have a complete grid. The Porsche pace car will pull them away. You'll see the GTEs lag back. And we'll get underway for 90 minutes of action here at race number 6 of the Night Racing Sports Car Championship. And here we go. This could be a championship-defining day. We've got some drivers that really need to put their stamp on it. Brommel is one of them. Andreas Schwarz, it's a fantastic battle for second place in LMP. As we come through the chicane, the pace car will go off. And here go the GTEs. We're getting ready for the green lights. And here we are. Dennis Rotter, a spectacular start. Brommel a little defensive on the inside. Here's Schwarz. And everybody through clean. The GTEs are through as well. And it is Jens Wolters leading the GTE class down to turn number 1 ahead of Max Riebensteiner. Has moved up into second. Seninger drops to third. McDonald to fourth. And then it is Hensel and Fowler. Down through the Dunlop car. And a great start for Fox. He's in fourth place ahead of Schlabs. Rainey and Seeley at the back. Connor Seidel in his first race back, 7th place. As the LMPs come around to complete lap number 1. And Dennis Rotter will lead the LMP field into lap 2. Schlab's having a look on Fox. He goes to the inside. And a great move down into turn number 1. Oliver Schlab's up to 4th place. Jens Wolters leads the GTE field down through the first lap. Riebensteiner up in 2nd place. Seninger and McDonald, that's where they were after the first couple of corners. And we've got action up and down the field. Eric Fox now just dropping a little bit off the back of Schlab's, getting himself settled in. First race in the KRL. He's looked very, very good in practice. Actually topped the timing sheets on Friday. It was Friday that he did that. So looking very competitive, and as we all know, it's very rare we have, well, we've never had a single strategy in LMP, as many as 4 different strategies almost every race. So we'll see what these guys are up to today in a short race. Very high tire wear, however, the 90-minute races, we don't usually see any pit stops. We check back in with the GTE field. That's Nick Johnson leading Jaden Manathan Guerin. Chris Costa. We're going to get a look at the GTE start. As we mentioned how close that was to the chicane, and they were wanting to get themselves into single file. Let's have a look here. This is where the GTs get to go. Have a look at the 99 right there. I didn't see any contact, but we're told there was a net code contact between Seninger and McDonald. So 2 of the front runners here, as they get the green lights and go through the chicane in single file, but 2 of the front runners here in GTE are starting this race that's already going to be tight on incident limits with 4X. You see Riebensteiner already with the pass done on as they head down into turn number 1. Everybody professional, giving room, and a great start there. But that's as we check back in live, that's going to be a huge change in attitude toward the rest of this race for both Seninger and McDonald, running 3rd and 4th respectively, having 4X right out of the gate before they even took the green lights. No damage to either car, we're told, so that's good. The LMP start a little more straightforward, as they, of course, have the luxury of being on the front straightaway every time the lights go out. It's the only thing we notice, a little bit of a creep there, and the lights go. Bromwell caught a little off guard, had to defend against Schwarz. Schlab's on the inside of Fox, but they sort themselves through. Fox with the inside heading into the arena, and then we later saw Schlab's make the pass at the end of the front straightaway. Working lap number 4 of this 90-minute race, and there is Oliver in the 473, looking for a good result here. He's had a bit of a A bit of a tough start. Coming up to speed here. A couple of 7th place finishes. He certainly got the pace, and a good friend of the car in front of him, the 204 of Andreas Schwarz. Maybe some setup help there, and the two of them were exceptionally tight in practice. So we'll see where they go, running 3rd and 4th respectively. Schlab's actually closing that gap. You can see turning his fastest lap of the race session so far, having a little bit of a look. Andreas, friend or no friend, during this 90 minutes, he's going to defend that line. That's another spot there, coming out of turn 1. If you push through too much, you can collect an easy 1X. And then another one that's been catching drivers out here as you exit the arena with this right-hander. If you go too far wide and clip that green paint there on the exit, you can collect a 1X very easily as well. As Fox now in the 33 has sort of shed the blue cars and caught himself back up to the tail end of this battle for 3rd. So we've got the Unleashed cars up front, 1 and 2. It's now a 5.8 second lead over Schwarz, and a 3-car battle for 3rd place. Checking back in, Marcel Struff has gone by Thompson. You saw the green on the timing screen there. He takes 14th in GTE. This, the battle for 9th place. That's Nick Johnson in the 96. Battle's all over as we continue to set fast times, a 42.6. Everybody setting, almost everybody setting better times. Top 3 do, of course. And that allows Schwarz to pull a little bit of a gap now on Schlab's. Really dropping off the pace now are the 6 and the 72 cars. We alluded early, this is going to be a tough race. Keith has actually looked pretty stout in practice. So for him to be dropping back off the 33, a little unusual. We knew the 72 might be in tough here today, so I'm sure there's an alternate strategy going on there. And, well, very good at avoiding drive-thrus and keeping it on the circuit, so maybe it's just collect what you can get at a circuit that's not very good to you. You hop back and forth between these midfield battles. Hello to everybody out there watching on YouTube. Race 6 of 8. We have 2 more to go here in Season 2 at 2 of the best endurance tracks on the calendar, Spa-Francorchamps and Le Mans. Dennis Rotter brings the Unleashed teammates back across the start-finish straight as we complete the first 10 minutes here at the Nurburgring. Check back down to the GTE leaders. Oh, very wide there was Riebensteiner in 2nd. And you can see the GTE's just sorting out a little bit. It's a 1.6 second gap to Riebensteiner. Senninger about a second behind. McDonald has dropped off the back of that. You see the night racing cars still nose to tail in behind. But whether this is tire management or what's going on here, that's a little interesting. I just want to check the fast laps. McDonald's best of 150.8, and that is significantly off the pace of the top three. 50.0s for Volters and Riebensteiner, 50.2 for Senninger. So something tells me that that could be a little bit of strategy here, knowing what the tire wear is. The right front takes it a little harder here than the left front, surprisingly, being a clockwise circuit. But they both wear significantly more than the rear tires. Meanwhile, we check in with Connor Seidel, who leads this four-car battle with Mark Sonnen, Nick Johnson, and Jaden Manathan-Guerin. Mark looking like he's getting a little racy here. Okay, good stuff in the back. Now we're starting to catch the GT field. That is Chris Thompson. And the battle for third comes through in the LMPs. So that means up at the front, we're going to see a lot of action. The leaders are through Marcel Struff as well. There's a long gap to Steve Groninga. And then we've got 6 cars in succession all running together, this group right here. So that'll be coming up in a few laps' time as the LMPs catch up to the back of the GTE field. Looking content to just sit in behind so far is Sonnen, as the last of the LMPs catch the last of the GTEs. I got a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of this battle here for a while, as Rotter and Brommel coming up to catch them very shortly. Just coming through the Ford curve at the moment. The BMWs crackle through the corner. And a great exit by Seidel there, and he actually pulls himself a little bit of a gap on the Corvette of Sonnen. Oh, and there's that jump. A little hot into the chicane. That's going to give Johnson an opportunity here. Clearly going to be a 1X for that. That chicane is so fast, and you have to be centimeter perfect through both aspects of it, because if you miss the exit, you can really hurt yourself going wide, approaching the final corner. So a little bit of a breather for Seidel now, and Sonnen with a pair of BMWs all over the tail end. As Oliver Schlabs in the pits. That promotes Fox, of course. Rainey and Seeley are going to come through as well. So we'll watch what's happening here. It is not a drive-through penalty. This race for the LMPs is a two-stopper. If you want to go traditional, it's a full fill and then a splash and go at the end. And with 15 minutes gone, it looks to me as though Schlabs may be flipping the 2 pit stops. He's already out, 14.8 seconds stopped. Oh, and he spun coming out of pit road. But it looks to me like he's got the splash and dash out of the way, and he's back-timed this race, and he's going to do a full fill and then take it all the way. Well, he would be full now. I assumed he started with full fuel, so he's burned down enough for the splash and go, filled it back up to a full 75 liters, and then he'll have another full fill to finish off the race. So there's a strategy that we haven't really seen before. And thinking out of the box here, he's got fresh tires, so the only thing that really is going to hurt him about that strategy is the little spin coming down into turn number 1. Sonnen defending against Johnson as we go down into turn 1. He maintains that position as they go side by side, but the Corvette does keep that position. Watching everything from behind is Guerin, Manathan Guerin, and he's got the leaders in LMP now right up behind. So they're all going to be coming through here, and we'll see how that works out. The gap up front in GTE still 2.5 seconds. Volter's over Riebensteiner. Jens third in the championship. He's got McDonald and Fowler behind him. And by quite a ways as well. Fowler in 6th, McDonald in 4th. So this could be a great point stay for the 24 car. Johnson moves well over to the right. Rotter comes through. As we come through the Schumacher S. Next in line is Sonnen, and well done to have it done before the exit. Sonnen does push a little wide, however. So that's a couple of 1Xs that we've seen on camera here for the 111 car. He's going to have to be careful about that. Still an hour and 11 minutes to go. Through the kink comes Brommel, and Johnson again right up on the tail. He's going to have a look. Oh, and he's a little hot into the final corner, and he's just tapped the wall. That's going to give Manathan Guerin. It's a horrible spot. It's a blind entry. Uses his relative screen. Well, we see Fox coming into the pits now. Dinkel in the Ford has now got the toe on the liquid moly BMW. Fox in the pits. And pushed wide again, and that's going to give the 229 11th place. So there's Fox in just a couple of laps after Schlabs. So possibly doing a similar sort of strategy. He also is stopped for 17 seconds. Back on the roll, so that looks exactly like the same thing. He's picked a point where he can do this race on one more stop, and there is Schlabs, who is in front of him. So these two can go on one more stop. And with a strategy like that, that gives a full pit stop at the end. They could decide whether or not they want to take tires or not. If you're going to take tires, you don't have many options as far as length of stints. You've got a full fuel and a splash and go. You could break the race into thirds, but then you've got worn tires for too long. So it's best to have the splash and dash there somewhere and do a full stint with that on tires, and then take full tires for a full fuel. We'll see if that's what they do when they come around in about 38 minutes time, I would think, when they come around for their final stop. Schlab stretching a little bit. Here comes Johnson down the inside of Dinkel, trying to regain that position nice and tight. No locking up, but Jonathan's got the line into the left-hander. Nice little power slide, and he'll keep the Ford in 11th place. Thomas Brommel now just about 3 seconds behind the leader, and that's not what he needs for the championship. He needs to beat his teammate here. It's a 55-point gap with 3 races to go and 38 points for a win. It's well within the mathematics, but it doesn't help the cause if he allows Dennis to finish in front of him here today. Dennis coming by the 488 of Seninger now, the third place car in GTE. And they will soon have gotten through the entire pack. I never cease to be amazed by how many different strategies we see, especially in the LMP class. It's always fascinating, and now we've got a couple flipping the stops. We'll try and keep track of how all of it works out. So that battle for second is getting fairly close here as the LMPs have come through. Riebensteiner and Seninger both very close. This now, the interesting battle for what is 6th place, but the alternate strategy cars in LMP. And they're running right together. There's Keith Rainey in the 6. A little bit of a tuff of smoke there from Sonnen. But he now has the luxury of not having the 96 car on him. And he can go about his race. Manathan Guerin here just allowing his LMP teammates to come through. And then he can get back to the business of trying to hunt down the white Corvette. Nick Johnson in the pits now. Wasn't sure if there was any damage there. Have a look, and that was a... No, he did stop. 15.7 seconds. So maybe a little damage repair for the 96 car. A one-stopper here today for the GTEs, and that may have been a little early for Nick to make it the whole distance, so we'll wait and see how that works out as well. As we approach the 30-minute mark here. Keith Rainey comes by the 25 of Connor Seidel, currently running in 7th place in GTE. Having a great return to the Sportscar Championship. Andreas Schwarz now a little bit on his own as the 2 cars he was racing with have gone with alternate strategies. It's an 8-second gap up to the Unleashed cars as Andreas now just coming through the sharp end of the field. Seninger in 3rd, that's Riebensteiner in 2nd. One of the closer battles on the circuit. A little bit wide as he... I've noticed that a lot. Sometimes if the GTEs use the LMP braking zone, or braking point when they're following. As the 6 car is off, that's Keith Rainey. And not a lot of movement there. I'm not sure what's... Let's have a look what happened. And he's just gone straight off. And into the tire barrier. Boy, that looked like a steering failure or something. And we're hearing from the pits he's had a VR failure. His VR goggles went black on him, and that was it. Straight to the scene of the accident. And we may have lost Keith Rainey from this race. Very, very strange. The car just went up on the curb and straight off. And yeah, he had no idea where he was. Like somebody threw a blindfold over his eyes. And boy, the bad luck continues with some internet issues last race and now the VR issues here today. And the 72 now the only, as we have all the night racing esports cars together on screen, other than Garin, of course. But Seeley will have to fly the colors alone in LMP here for the rest of the day. Currently running in 4th place ahead of the alternate strategy cars of Schlabs and Fox, who are, yeah, 1 second apart. Still very close, so we'll be keeping track of that battle. There they are. And I can't wait to see if they take tires when they come down pit road. That'll be very interesting if that's why. The racing line belongs to the GTE car. And they're going to go through on the inside now through the kink. Nothing wrong there from the 229. And everybody's through, no harm, no foul. It does close that battle up a little bit. And speaking of battles, the second place battle between Ruben Steiner and Seninger continues. And a pretty good debut here for the 33 car. He's running 6 out of 6 cars on circuit, but that is not telling the story. And as we approach the 30-minute mark, we're going to see pit stops for the rest of the LMP class. And we'll see how this goes through. 44.6, 45.1. They've been coming through some traffic. You see the leaders doing 42s. The car they're really racing, though, is Schwarz. 43.8 the last time around for Andreas. And more traffic here for Schlabs and Fox. So we'll see how this cycles through. We come by Chris Costa. If nothing else, being on the same strategy, they're going to be together for the rest of the day, it looks like. You see Mark Sonnen has now put a little bit of a gap between himself and Jaden Maneth and Garin in the 777 BMW. As we enter the final hour here at the Nurburgring. The Racing League Sportscar Championship, of course, is recruiting. 2 races remaining in Season 2. If you want to be part of this championship, we have spots in LMP and GTE. And what's going to happen is we have the final 2 races coming up at Spa and Le Mans. And then there will be 3 special events in the summer. 1 in June, 1 in July, 1 in August. For drivers to come in, check out the incredible competition in this series. It is a series that doesn't care how fast you are. We have drivers from 1K I rating all the way to 3.5K. It doesn't matter how fast you are, there is a group of cars, as you can see here today, that you can race with. The criteria for getting in here is that you can drive nose to tail, keep your car on the circuit. It's a low incident point series, and it keeps it ultra realistic. Everything is broadcast, and a lot of things that you just can't find unless you're a 5K driver or higher, and you know, signing whatever you have to sign and flogging equipment or buying equipment. This is open for mid-split drivers, and you can be part of the best sports car series on iRacing. So get a hold of us, and we'll get you on the grid. Season 3 coming in September after the special event races. And we're looking to have 40 to 50 car grids for Season 3. This battle for second place hotting up now as Toby Seninger all over the back of Max Riebensteiner. We haven't seen a shot of these Corvettes today without the other one in it. All the way through qualifying, they ran nose to tail, and in the race, they are running nose to tail. Hensel and Fowler. That's the battle for fifth. This is the battle for second. They are 5 seconds behind the race leader right there. You can see all three of them now in the same shot. That is Jens Wolters doing exactly what he needs to do today. And he's got that car up front in GTE. Jens sits 52 points behind Jennifer McDonald, only 10 points behind Hayden Fowler. And that gap for fifth, Oliver Schlabs is stretching his legs a little bit. He's got a couple of cars between him. We'll see if Eric can get himself by the Corvettes in the front straight. He certainly should be able to. Gets a nice toe off of Fowler there. And job done. Hensel is the next car in that GTE points battle. He's in fourth place. And it's only 8 points from him to Wolters. So very, very tight stuff there in the GTE championship, as it always is. And he can close that gap up to his teammate who's running behind him just a little bit. Thomas Brommel has set the fastest time around that time, 42.8. That's the fastest lap of everyone's last lap time. Let's try to see what the overall best lap time is. 42.365 is the race fast lap that currently set by Dennis Rotter in the 011. Into the pits comes Riebensteiner from second place. That seems a little early for GTEs, although it's a one-stopper. If he can make it all the way to the end, then we'll see what kind of alternate strategies. It'll be very interesting to see, as he's going to be overtaken by Hensel and Fowler. There they go. It'll be very interesting to see if tires go on this car. So we're still 10 minutes away from halfway. Continues to drop down the order. No tires for the 14. And he will drop all the way down to the 11th position of the Crocodile. with, of course, everybody else having to come down pit road. Eric Fox there coming through past Chris Thompson as the leaders are back around through to the back end. We're gonna be seeing these cars coming down. We're now 37 minutes into this race, so this lap or the next, I think we're going to start seeing LMP pit stops. Just checking, Riebensteiner's fuel-only stop was 27.4 seconds. And being a one-stop race for the GTEs, I imagine we're going to see similar times. But yeah, it's interesting he would come down earlier than everybody else. Eric Fox has made his way up to the second place car in GTE. He's dropped off the back end of Schlabs here as Rotter is in the pits. So we see the first car to blink. That gives Brommel the lead. He's going around for another lap, as is Andreas Schwarz. Next in line is the 72. Seeley's not even up to the chicane yet. And Rotter, who has just made his way into pit road, or into his pit box, taking full fuel. Seeley going around as well. So a lap before everybody else in the field for the race leader. Rotter on the move, a total pit road time of 54.1 seconds. And he will rejoin in 4th place ahead of Oliver Schlabs. And he's got a good, comfortable gap there, but 12 seconds the gap ahead of Schlabs. As the mirror image show continues with Hensel and Fowler there. And there is Wolters, now with a 6-second lead over his teammate, Toby Seninger. Teammates running different manufacturers, which is very interesting. But not unprecedented, as these two have a teammate who is running the BMW. There's talk that that Jaden's going to switch over. However, since he started the season in the BMW, he is obligated to finish it. You can't have drivers jumping around just because the BOP changes, and you would rather be in a different car for this particular track. That's not how it works. That's not, of course, what Jaden's trying to do. He's just he wants to get into the same car as the teammates and run the same setups. But unfortunately, he started the season in the BMW at Suzuka, and so he's got 2 more races after today to finish off that program, and then I suspect we will see the 3 of them converge in a similar manufacturer. As Seeley in the 72 has made it through pit road, and that promotes Oliver Schlabs and Eric Fox back to where they should have been. They, of course, on the short fills, and what we really want to see is where Andreas Schwarz comes out, because those 3 were running together when Schlabs and Fox made their early pit stops. Seeley out of the pits, 11.2 seconds stopped, so That tells me he's done his short fill. So the bottom three cars, all basically on the same strategy now. As Schlabs and Fox did a short fill to top up their cars once they could get it in there. Seeley did an entire run and has short filled. So we could see all three of them come together. The 204 is in the pits. And this is what we want to see. Rotter is going to get through for sure. He's just now coming through the final corner. But it is Schlabs that we want to see where he's coming out. Just now entering the chicane. Schwarz has been stopped for 15 seconds. And down the front straightaway comes the 473, and he will retake third place, and Eric Fox as well. Out comes Schwarz, 33.4 seconds, so that's a full fill. So again, we are seeing, well, that's now 3 different strategies we've seen. Rotter with a full fill, he's just running a basic race. A full fill for Rotter. Schwarz here has, well, he's also just running the basic strategy. Full. That means no tires for him, for sure. And then we have Schlabs and Fox, who did a short fill as soon as they could do it. And then we have Seeley, who's done a short fill after a full run. Brommel is in the pits for the final LMP pit stop. And we'll see if he's made any ground up on the 011. We're just now coming through the kink on the back straightaway. Seconds stopped for the 4 car. And it's, yeah, the same. It's a full fill. But you can see just now coming out of the pit box. So advantage Rotter on the pit stops as he's extended that gap now to 8 seconds. And you saw just in the background, there is Oliver Schlabs. So the cars with the short fills a little bit up the circuit and closing the gaps. We'll see how it all plays out with everybody having 1 stop to go. Rotter and Brommel, short fills. Schlabs, Fox, Schwarz, and Seeley. Sorry, Schwarz with a short fill as well. Schlabs, Fox, and Seeley all with full fills coming up. Fowler continues to hound the back of his teammate Kevin Hensel. This the battle for 4th in GTE. And we are halfway here at the Nurburgring. A little wide by the 94. This is the closest battle on the circuit at the moment, as the LMPs just sorting themselves out. And we'll watch as Oliver Schlabs was the quickest car on circuit the last time around. That just updated, and Fox has closed that gap. Oh, and Rotter takes it. So in a matter of 5 seconds, 3 different drivers all had the quickest time on track. Brommel's time, of course, won't count. That's his first time around after completing his pit stop. So that'll include the pit time. He'll have to come around again before we get a representative time from him. But Schlabs is closing that gap down. We'll see what he can do with Thomas Brommel. We know they're all on the same tires. Nobody took tires on their first stops, and we know that Schlabs and Fox will have a lighter fuel load. Schlabs has done, he's on his 18th lap since his pit stop. Again, a look but no movement there in the Battle of the Blue Corvettes. And Rotter now with a very comfortable 10-second lead here. Doing everything he needs to extend that gap. An 11-point advantage for a winning over second place. 38 points for a win, 27 for second. We use the WEC point format, endurance point format. And 66 points with 2 races to go is as close to secure as you are ever going to get. Of course, attendance is everything. There are no dropped races in this series. As we say, you don't need to be fast to race here. You just need to be clean and an endurance driver who can drive around other cars without crashing. But you also don't need to race in every race. But if you want to compete for the championship, you need to race. In the pits come the GTE leaders. Jens Wolters is in, and right behind him, Toby Seninger. Hayden Fowler stays on track to take the lead momentarily. Jen McDonald into the pits, and Kevin Hensel has peeled off as well. So that is going to give the Canadian a temporary lead. Seidel also goes through, Canadians 1 and 2, as Wolters is out. Fuel only, stopped for 26.6 seconds. Seninger comes out. Riebensteiner stays on the track. Seninger tries to stay out of the way there as the LMP goes through on the outside. That is the race leader in LMP. So it's all happening as the front end of the GTE field slots back in. And that was a quick shot of Kevin Hensel, who is taking tires. Manathan Guerin is through. He has completed his pit stop. No tires on the BMW. And the 94 is finally released. Temporarily in 9th place. Dinkel and Costa have pitted in behind. So with 40 minutes remaining, the GTE story starting to fill in. We still await Fowler and Seidel at pit road as trying to make a pass on the entry to the Schumacher S. Maybe not the best idea. Brommel backs out of that and gets past Riebensteiner. He's closed the gap down a little bit with some traffic. We saw Rotter have a little bit of an issue there when the GTEs came out of the pits. It cost him a few seconds, and the gap has come down to 7.3 seconds at the moment. And Oliver Schlab's not that far behind. He comes by Riebensteiner as well. Struff to the pits. Everything's sorted through. Fowler is in the pits, as is Seidel now. So we'll see the GTE board updating as the leaders come back around. Brommel goes by Seninger. The gap continues to come down a little bit. You see a little bit of a wiggle there. Rotter is in clean track now. Quite a bit of clean track before he catches Chris Costa, would be the next car on circuit. But everything is sorted through, so let's have a little bit of a field rundown here and catch up on what's going on. Up front in LMP, it's Dennis Rotter. The pole sitter has led from the start and has currently a 7-second lead over his teammate Thomas Brommel, who is pushing hard to try and finish on top and close the points gap. These two look like they will be contending for the points championship with 2 races to go. In third place, having a great day, is Oliver Schlabs, and you can see not that far behind, less than 3 seconds behind the 4 car. Oliver on a alternate strategy, took a short fill early, and will have to do a full fuel pit stop coming up here shortly. He leads the 33 of Eric Fox, who is on the same strategy, although he stopped 2 laps later than the 473 car. Slightly artificially out of position, you could say, is the 204 of Andreas Schwarz. He runs 5th, but he's running a conventional strategy, took a full fuel load on his first pit stop, and leads against the 72 of Paul Seeley. He's running also on the alternate strategy, and is in fact diving in right now. So that means we should also see Schlabs and Fox very shortly on pit road, as those 3 cars all need a full fuel stop to go to the end of the race. In GTE, it's Jens Wolters leading in the 24 car over his teammate, the 488 Ferrari of Toby Seninger. It's a 5-second gap between the two. Max Riebensteiner runs 3rd in the BMW, just ahead of the 99 of Jen McDonald. The points leader running 4th, as things look like they may be tightening up here at the end of the day. After the cycling through, Hayden Fowler has leapfrogged his teammate. He runs in 5th place. Fowler taking fuel only, and now leads fellow Canadian, the 25 of Connor Seidel, making his return to the series after competing in Season 1. School obligations out of the way, and we welcome Connor back, running a very respectable top 6 here with 35 minutes to go. In 7th place, the 111 of Mark Sonnen, also having a great run today in the Corvette C8R. He leads Jaden Manathan-Guerin in the 777 BMW. Seeley just coming out of the pits, and we are told he took tires on the 72 car. So a long pit stop there, and there's another strategy filling in. Behind Manathan-Guerin in GTE is the 94 of Kevin Hensel. Kevin, who is running in front of his teammate all day, took tires on his pit stop and has dropped to 9th place. He sits 1.7 seconds behind Guerin, who is also 1 second behind Sonnen. We'll see if those fresh tires can pull Kevin back up through the field. 35 minutes left. Behind Kevin is the 229 of Jonathan Dinkel in the Ford GT. He's in a bit of a gap. Oh, as he's 4-wheel drifts the entry to the chicane. What a save by Jonathan. That will close the gap a little bit, but it is still a 25-second lead on the 59 car of Steve Groninga, who has been having a great battle all day with Chris Costa in the 76. I just want to watch this for a second, as Costa now has a perfect toe down the straightaway. That's the 2nd place LMP coming in to muddy the waters. And Thomas will make a move as Oliver Schlabs has come to pit road. Brommel is through clean, and the Corvettes will continue on through the Mercedes Arena. Behind Chris Costa in the 78 of Marcel Struff. In 14th place is Chris Thompson in the Porsche RSR number 66. Back to pit road, Oliver Schlab's in for his final stop. He's made it to pit road. Eric Fox stayed out. We know he went 2 laps further. We're assuming this is a full fill. We'll check the pit times when Oliver comes out of his box. It's a little over 30 seconds, about 31 seconds for a full fill in an LMP car. 32.2 seconds stopped. Schlab's is on the move. He rejoins the circuit in 5th place ahead of Seeley here in 6th. That gap won't be that close as Seeley took tires. The other LMP cars have not taken rubber. Schlab's the first one to take his second pit stop. He has stayed on his original tires. We rejoin the battle for 11th in GT as Eric Fox. Is he going to come down pit road this time? He'll split the Corvettes into the final chicane. No, maybe it's 2 laps further. And we'll see if he can use a shorter fill to pull that gap back in to Oliver. And a little bit of a spin. That's Groninga. A little too much welly coming out of the first corner, and that's going to release Costa into 11th place. No danger from behind, but a position for the 76 car. Chris Costa now in 11th place. There is Eric Fox in the 33. That's the car we're watching now. Seeley almost a minute behind Schlab's, who has made that second pit stop. So, again, not a factor here today. Turning, well, he was a 45-1 that last time. Bringing it home, collecting points. That's what today's about for the 72, it looks like. It's going to be splash and goes for the leaders, so we're thinking at least 15 more minutes before we see Rotter, Brommel, and Schwarz down pit road. The gap in GTE is still 5 seconds. Riebensteiner behind Senninger now. 3 seconds. A 4-second gap over McDonald in 4th. Then a further 10 seconds back to Fowler. That rounds out the top 5 now that everyone's cycled through in GTE. Little wiggle, you can see how on the edge they are through that final chicane. Andre Schwarz comes around to complete lap number 34. Half an hour remaining here in Germany. 90 minutes on the Nurburgring. And Fox has gone around again. And although it says Rotter was the quickest car last time around, half a second quicker than Brommel, if you take the big picture, that gap is still coming down slowly. Nobody between them right now, as Rotter and Brommel on the same piece of track. It's only 7 seconds. Ooh, and a little bit of a four-wheel drift there. Too bad we cut away from that. And I'm just watching the times. That cost Thomas about 3/4 of a second. You can see how hard he's pushing to try and catch back up to Dennis. Finishing in front, very, very important for the 4 car here today. Here's John Dinkle now. Fox finally comes into pit road, so we're going to see these strategies play out. Costa released from Groningen there. He saw that little bit of an off. He is now closing in on the 229 of John Dinkle, so he could be making a play at the top 10 here shortly. In the pit box, just stopped in the pit box, so we imagine it's, well, I mean, if Schlabs can make it all the way, he stopped 3 laps later than Schlabs, so I imagine this doesn't need to be a full fuel. There's only 27 minutes left. You got to add time for a possible extra lap, depending on when the checkered falls. 25.2 seconds stopped for the 33 car. Here comes Schlabs now, out of the final corner. He's getting by Hayden Fowler. But that's going to be a position, staying out a little longer, fueling shorter, and Eric Fox is up to 4th place. And he's got a nice, comfortable lead as we see Manathan Guerin head toward pit road. Is that possibly a drive-through for the 777? As we are not expecting 2 stops for the GTE cars. So there's Eric, and he's got himself a nice 8-second gap. So very well done for the 33 car. And it is indeed a drive-through penalty for Manathan Guerin. He's clipped the 8X. So all the LMP cars in the alternate strategy group have completed their pit stops. It'll be splash and goes for the top 3. And you can see that gap has opened up a little bit now. 9 seconds, although now having to negotiate traffic again. Between, yeah, likely one of the closest battles in GTE at the moment, as Seidel just a second and a half ahead of Mark Sonnen. Kevin Hensel is not far behind that, and we know Kevin has fresh rubber, so you could have a 3-way ding-dong there for 6th place very shortly. Riebensteiner continues to hound Seninger for 2nd in GTE. Just not quite close enough. So having a great debut here for the American in the 33 car. Eric Fox comes through the top end of the GTE class, but pit strategy and going a little bit longer, he was able to take less fuel and has leapfrogged the 473 and a good, comfortable gap. 8 seconds, as we said. Saw a little puff of smoke there. Not sure who that was from. That's the battle for 10th. And we'll be cutting back to that, I'm sure, as Costa seems to be reeling him in. There's Hensel with fresh tires, just cruising up to the back of Sonnen here. And certainly with 25 minutes left, Seidel would also not be out of the question with those fresher tires. Chris Costa has come to pit road. And are we now starting to see the drive-thrus? Yes. So Costa is going to drop down in that battle. And Steve Groninga, after giving that position with a little bit of an over throttle coming out of turn 1, is going to have it gifted back to him as Costa had to come down through pit road. Oliver Schlabs continues to push through. Is he making any headway? Actually, it looks like Connor Seidel in the pits. And we're told there's some damage on that car. Well, hold on, let's see. He's wiggling it around. It's a drive-through penalty for the 25 car. But he was wiggling it around. I'm told there was some contact with the pit road entry Armco. So we'll watch very carefully what happens to the 25 after having a great return here to the series. That's cost him a couple of positions. Hensel now ahead of Sonnen. So it's all happening here. He's up to 6th place. "22 minutes remain." Just catching up on the Discord chat there. Everybody congratulating John on his power slide through the chicane there. Yes, very well done. And I'd be very curious. I don't think he would have collected an X. He kept it completely on track for the whole thing. So whether he got a 2X for loss of control, I'm not sure. But I'm sure he didn't go off track or collect a 1X. So that'd be interesting to know that. Oliver Schlabs comes through by the race leader. Jens Wolters having a great day and hopefully closing right up that championship for the top 3. Fowler running in 5th. McDonald in 4th. So she will open that gap up a little bit if it stays the way it is. But Jens looking to close the top 3 right up. Andreas Schwarz coming around here to lap his sort of teammate, Paul Seeley. Of course, the top 3 have not made their final pit stops. Seeley has. It's been a long day for the 72, and you can see he's just pulls it off. The only LMP car to take tires in this race as well. Gives you an idea of how confident he is on the grip level here. High downforce circuit. And Kevin Hensel in the same boat. He one of the few cars to take tires here in GTE. And you can see it's a 30-second gap up to Hayden Fowler, who he was running with for the first half of this race. That is strictly the tire change. So we'll see what are the lap time differences. A 52.4 for Kevin last time around, a 51.7 for Hayden. So not really reaping the rewards of that fresh rubber. We'll see how bad it gets for the cars who decided not to take tires. How bad it gets at the end of the race. Schlabs comes through past the 229. It's still a 9-second gap up to Eric Fox. There is Eric. All that time gained in the pit stop when he stopped 3 laps later than the 473 car. Little flash there, not sure what that was about. We know the 4 car's been pushing it here, so trying to catch his teammate in the 011. 2 races remain. It's a 55-point gap between Rotter and Brommel coming into this race. Of course, Thomas, the winner at Daytona in our last round, keeping the championship hopes alive. He's been the quicker of the two drivers. To be fair, he's outqualified Rotter, although not today. He has outqualified him through the season. But he was taken out, of course, while leading on lap 1 at Watkins Glen. He was taken out in Sebring, also on lap 1. Then, unfortunately, at Road Atlanta, he recovered well, it must be said. He finished 3rd in Sebring. It was just a spin, but he was pushed out from P1. Took himself out, it must be said, at Road Atlanta, finished 6th there, but finally got things together at Daytona with a brilliant win. And a brilliant strategy battle as well, as that was the one where Rotter was saving fuel, did the whole race on 2 stops, which was unheard of. And the strategies almost played out, but it was Brommel on the fresher tires who prevailed in that classic Daytona race. If you haven't seen it, check it out on the playlist, race number 5. But Rotter has the upper hand here today, and there's no fuel savings or clutch dipping going on. And it's a 9.2 second lead. You can see Dennis, the quickest car on circuit last time around. Brommel actually dealing with some traffic, so that gap has opened up even more. As he come by McDonald, haven't seen a lot of Jen. She's been running a solid race there in 4th place all day. Not really too many battles around, which is a little unusual for that sharp end of the field. But another good points day, and with a 42-point lead coming into today's race, it's going to come down a little bit, it looks like, from the Volters. But she's got some to spend, and very good around Spa and Le Mans, so the GTE Championship getting more and more interesting as we go along. There is Schlabs. What's happened? Fox is under pressure here and is going to get past. Has he had an off? That 9-second lead is gone, and now so is 4th position. The 473 is by. I don't see anything on the car. But the lap times as they come around here are definitely going to be... I'm just waiting for them to cross the line. A 56.4, so obviously Eric has gone off circuit somewhere. And the battle for 4th place is back on in earnest. Meanwhile, you could see Riebensteiner there is just reeling in Senninger a little bit. Brommel comes through. But this is the big story at the moment. The 33, after a great pit strategy and executing it, giving himself that 4th place with a nice little gap. He's done something on the last lap. I'm sorry we missed it. But it has allowed Oliver Schlabs to come all the way up and make a pass. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with the 33 car. He's right on it, and we've got a great battle here with 15 minutes remaining for 4th place in LMP. Oh, and a little wide there coming onto the back straight. Connor Siedel's still out there, so anywhere's ahead, and that's the GTE leader, Jens Wolters, off, and coming through. Riebensteiner and Senninger are both by damage on the left rear quarter. What has happened to the 24 car? After having things his way all day long, Jens Wolters is off all three cars. We were saying Riebensteiner was closing in. Both the BMWs come to pit road. Well, certainly Max wasn't involved in that. Senninger has been released. All his Christmases have come early here. Holy smokes, Senninger now is going to have a 7.5 second lead over Jen McDonald, who running fourth all day long, is in second place. Wolters has been... It's triggered an 8X for Jens, so he had to come through as a drive-through. Riebensteiner actually stopped in his box for 7.3 seconds, so I'm not sure what was going on there. If they underfueled the car at the beginning of the race. Let's see what happened here. It's Thomas Brommel, we're told. Here he is coming through the Dunlop. And we know he's been pushing to try and close that gap with Dennis Rotter. What's going on through the Senna S? Oh my goodness. And he's driven into the back of the 24 car. And there you see Riebensteiner, Senninger already through. And the stewards having a look at that. I mean, it's very clear in the rules. The GTE cars, or, well, not the GTE cars, the car being overtaken is to stay on the racing line. And it's it's up to the overtaking car to make a clean pass. It looks like Thomas had committed to the outside, which exiting the Senna S's would be the racing line, and I believe he was expecting Wolters to go over to the right side, which is where you would enter the next corner, but Jens has stayed on the exit, and yeah, you just chose the wrong side. That's unfortunate. Brommel is now in the pits. Has that triggered a drive-through for him as well? He's actually stopped in the box. So maybe some damage repair. Very hard impact on that right front corner. And we hope he can get that car back out. So all kinds of implications on the points. That's going to really hurt Thomas's chances as he's dropped all the way down to 6th place now. Schlabs, Fox, and Seeley. Speaking of Schlabs and Fox, here they come down the front straight. 10 minutes to go, and they're battling for 4th side by side. And Eric Fox has retaken that position. Brommel still in the pits. And he's been there for almost 3 minutes now, so it's a lengthy repair. Obviously some suspension damage. Rotter is in for his splash and go as Andreas Schwarz becomes the quickest car on circuit that time around. We know Andreas has to come down as well. He's been promoted to 2nd place. As the gap, here he comes down the front straightaway. So Andreas may actually, he does take the lead, but we know he's got to come down pit road. There's Dennis in the background just coming out. It's been 22. He's starting his 23rd lap on this stint for Andreas Schwarz, so we know he's going to be coming down either the next lap. Toby Senninger in the 488 Ferrari. There he is. Finds himself in the lead of the GTE class with 8 minutes 40 seconds to go. And after a day in 4th place, Jen McDonald in the 99 is on the podium again. We talked about what a unusually uneventful race this was for her, but stay between the white lines, run your strategy, and she's going to bring another podium home. And also up on the podium, maybe is more surprised than anyone now, the 28th of Hayden Fowler also kept it clean all day. He's run the better strategy from his teammate, it looks like. And he's got a third place finish here, and those two are now going to extend the gap to the 24 car. What a turn of events here in the last 15 minutes. Connor Seidel is back in the pits. And we are told that he's come back out. So it's all kind of gone south a little bit here. That's his third time down pit road. Still looking for a top 10, however. He's got a good gap over Dinkel and Groninga, who are running about 10 seconds down the road. And looking to debut on the podium here now. After an incredible battle, Schlabs has now lost the back end of the 33. Here is Eric Fox, now running in third place. He had that gap after the strategies, you remember. Lost it. He had an off track somewhere. We didn't see it. It gave Schlabs an opportunity to overtake him. But Fox has come back and now has regained that third place. Paul Seeley, the most uneventful day. He's been the slowest car in that class by far. Has kept it on circuit, no incident points, and is running in fifth now. Collect the points where they are. If things aren't going your way, move on to a better track. We know he is better at Spa. This is the first time we've run this circuit, actually, so... Oliver Schlabs, this would be his first finish, I believe. He's had some issues earlier. Remember, he had that off very early at Road Atlanta. It's been a very, very good day here for Oliver. Unfortunately, he's dropped back off the podium here, but a solid fourth place, and he's been in it all day long. Dennis Roder with 5 minutes to go. He's 4 seconds down the road. Schwarz has still not come into the pits. He couldn't have saved enough fuel to do. He hasn't pulled a Roder here, has he? I don't think so. Based on when he pitted, you always get that little question when you get down within 5 minutes to go. Has he saved enough fuel to go to the end of the race? But we will see. Roder 4 seconds back, 3.5 now. We'll see what the 204 does as we watch the GTE leader, Toby Seninger. And this will be a good day for Toby. Toby on 57 points coming into the race. 74 for Hensel, who is running in 6th. So this will be a very interesting... we're really going to tighten up that battle in GTE. The top two have been given a present, but the battle underneath that is really going to be tight as we leave to head for Spa in 2 weeks. Schwarz is in the pits. And you see Roder's name jump to the top of the timing screen. This will be a very short fill. And he's got a lot of time in hand over the third place car. So this should be some very relaxed service. Just get enough fuel in the car and bring it home for a well-earned second place. Andreas, of course, won at Road Atlanta. He's had a couple of fourth-place finishes, a fifth in the season opener at Suzuka, sixth place at Watkins Glen. But he's been getting stronger as the season goes on. And is going to be rewarded with his fourth podium of the season if he comes home in second place. There is Andreas right there. And he's got himself in a nice, safe little bubble, you would have to think. He's 30 seconds down the road from Rotter, but he is 22 seconds up the road from this man, Eric Fox, in 33. He comes by Volters. And I just don't know what to say. The stewards do know what to say, however, and I think we talked it through when it happened live there. Thomas Brommel is being assessed an avoidable contact penalty, and after being the recipient multiple times this year of someone being assessed the avoidable contact penalty, it's come back, and he's gotten one himself. Not an issue. The drivers here are very apologetic and very good about owning up to what happens. Thomas, I'm sure, feels terrible, especially not only hitting a countryman, an ex-teammate. They all used to race together on Switch It, remember, before the Unleashed team. They moved over to the Unleashed team. But worst of all, he hit the class leader, which there's not much bigger no-no. Pushing hard to try and catch Dennis, we know, but you still got to make safe passes, and so that's going to be a penalty for the Ford car, his first of the year. So he'll have to be on more careful in the next two races. Additional penalties will lead to qualifying bans and/or time penalties, depending on the severity. 1 minute to go. And just checking the gap there, Volters in fourth. It's a 5-second gap to Hayden Fowler in front. There is Hayden in the 28. As we collect Dennis Rotter in the 0-1-1. And he is starting his final lap in the LMP class. It will be a 52-lap race today as the sun heads behind the clouds. It's been a perfect day for the 011. Thomas was keeping him honest most of the day until that mishap on lap 44. But it never really looked like he was going to be able to catch Dennis Rotter here today. He's qualified on pole and has run a perfect race. And here's your class leader in GTE just now starting to his final lap. And I don't think if you asked him a half an hour ago if he thought he'd be in this position, but Toby has had a great run here today and starts his 49th lap in the lead of the GTE class, and it's really going to tighten things up in the point standings. As Volters has caught Riebensteiner, we're going to have a bit of a battle here for the final podium place, and Jens really needs that position. Try and make the best of a bad situation here. But coming through the last chicane for the final time in car number 011, your winner at the Nurburgring, Dennis Rotter. This is the final lap for the GTE cars. So Jens Volters doing what he can to try and get by there. Coming home in second in LMP is Thomas Brommel. He'll take a penalty to Spa, but a pretty good run nevertheless. And here through the final corner, in the 488 car, your winner of the 90 minutes at Nurburgring, Toby Seninger. And just behind him, in his debut race in the Night Racing League Sportscar Championship, it's a podium for the 33 of Eric Fox. Your second place car is Hayden Fowler. As we look back, there is Max Riebensteiner, and he will finish third ahead of Jens Wolters in fourth. What a race here at the Nürburgring. And let's check out your final race results. In LMP, Dennis Rotter finishes ahead of Andreas Schwarz and Eric Fox. That's your podium in LMP. Oliver Schlabs finishes in fourth ahead of Paul Seeley. Thomas Brommel, who I said finished second, he of course did not. He was in the pits. Thomas Brommel is sixth place. The damage repair, of course, dropping him down 4 laps. Keith Rainey did not finish. He's in sixth. So congratulations to Dennis Rotter, Andreas Schwarz, and Eric Fox, your podium in LMP. In GTE, Toby Seninger wins over Jen McDonald and Hayden Fowler. Max Riebensteiner finishes fourth ahead of Jens Wolters and Kevin Hensel. Mark Sonnen seventh, Jaden Manethingaren eighth. John Dinkel, 9th, and Steve Groniga rounds out the top 10. Chris Costa, Marcel Struth, and Chris Thompson. Your final runners, Connor Seidel did retire from damage entering pit road there on a drive-through penalty, and Nick Johnson, who was having a great debut, we lost due to an internet problem, a throughput problem. So Nick unable to finish his first race, but great to have him in the lead. The point standings, as they sit, Dennis Rotter extends his lead to 67 points now over Andreas Schwarz. His 128 points, 14 ahead of Brommel, who drops down a little bit. Seeley, now fourth. 10 points ahead of Heinrich, who is no longer going to race the series. Rainey, unable to finish, drops further down. The GTE Championship, Jen McDonald now a 46-point lead over Hayden Fowler. Jens Wolters is still third, but it's 64 points. That really takes a hit. He's going to be chasing Hayden Fowler now for that second place. Still mathematically in it, but we'll see what happens when we head to Spa. Kevin Hensel is in fifth. Steve Groniga, sixth place in the championship ahead of Mark Sonnen, John Dinkel, and Max Riebensteiner in ninth. We hope you enjoyed today's race here from the Nürburgring. Our next race is at Spa-Francorchamps in 2 weeks. We'll see you there.